going to be talking about something very pertinent to your everyday life, and that's how to make decisions. Now, everyone has a different viewpoint on how they are as a decision maker. Some people feel like they are amazing decision makers, but many of us don't feel so confident when it comes to making decisions. Some of us feel like we would rather have someone else make hard decisions for us, or we feel a lack of confidence behind our abilities to make decisions. If you're anything like Sandra, Sandra grew up with parents that were harsh and domineering. Her parents never allowed her to make any decisions. And so it was a consistent thing that Sandra would have to rely upon her parents to make all of the decisions in the household. If she ever tried to come up with something or decide something for herself, her parents would chop her down. They would cut her down. They would make fun of her decisions. They would laugh at her, or they would point out everything that was wrong with what she had decided. As a result, she developed a very deep insecurity when it came to making decisions for herself. And she carried this into her adult life. And so now Sandra, as the type of person that when there's time, when it's time to make a decision, she rather look to everyone else. And she has a way of saying, what do you think I should do? And she goes to people and tries to kind of get them to make the decision. She's hyper concerned about what everyone else will think about her choices. And so this, for Sandra, becomes an actual stumbling block because she's not able to do something that we need to be able to do to have control and autonomy in our lives. Can you relate to Sandra? Some people, when it comes to making decisions, all kinds of trauma alarms go off in their head and they start thinking about everything that could go wrong if they make a wrong decision. So as a result, they take a long time to actually come up with a decision, to actually be decisive. For some people, there's so much worrying and ruminating around the decision, and there's so much anxiety when it comes to this idea that they're going to have to make a decision. And so it just gives them a stress attack that they're going to have to decide something or have a hard decision to make. Some people just stall. It's a fear of judgment. So a decision that could take maybe a day or two, they take months to make. And then what happens? Well, the longer they take to make it, time moves by and the decision either gets made for them or they get pressured and put into a really difficult situation. Some people just are not decisive. And so they will make a decision, but when they do, they immediately start regretting their decision and thinking, oh boy, what if I made the wrong decision? Maybe I should have did the other thing, right? And so maybe you hear yourself being reflected in some of these examples. Or maybe just in general, you would like to know the secrets to being a very strong decision maker. It not only makes us a good leader, but it helps us to lead ourselves. So how can we do that? One of the principles you have to keep in mind when it comes to decision making is there is not necessarily going to be a clear right or wrong decision. In any situation where you go in and you're thinking, okay, I want to decide whether I'm going to wear the blue shirt or the red shirt. It's not that one decision is right and the other decision is wrong. Both the decisions will always have some drawbacks to them. And this is what can make it difficult. You see, if we haven't been trained to make decisions and we don't have confidence in our decisions, we can get tripped up by the fact that no matter what we decide, there's always a drawback to that choice. But isn't that always the case? Isn't it true that no matter which direction you go, which decision you make, something there's going to be negative aspects to that choice. So if you decide that you want to go to school number one, well, none of your friends are going there, but they have a very, very good science program. But if you go to school number two, all of your friends are there, but they don't have a very good science program. So there's drawbacks either way. So that whichever decision you make, you may find yourself doubting that decision because you're looking at all the drawbacks of the decision you made. So how do you know how to make a decision when both decisions seem in some way to be wrong? We have to recognize that there will always be wrong aspects of both decisions. There will always be drawbacks, but you have to get out of the mindset of thinking right and wrong. Your decisions are not right and wrong. That's childhood thinking. That's child level thinking. When we progress into adult thinking, into nuanced thinking, then we can see all the colors of the rainbow besides just black and white. White being all colors mixed together and black being the absence of any color. That's not the only two options on the rainbow, right? You got red, blue, yellow, you got the whole spectrum and everything in between and all the colors that are mixed. When you recognize that life is more like that rainbow instead of a black and white situation, now you can make your decisions on a more nuanced basis and realize that it's not about what's right and what's wrong. It's about what's best in this particular situation. What you are looking for is what is going to be most beneficial in this particular situation. What you are looking for is what is going to be the superior choice, the more beneficial choice in this particular situation. And it depends, because depending on the current circumstances, it'll be different today than it will be tomorrow. So as today you may wear the blue shirt, but tomorrow you may wear the red. And there may be a specific reason for that. For instance, which sporting event you're going to and which team you're going to be supporting. It's going to depend on the day, on the circumstance. So you can't get into the mindset of making decisions on a bias, thinking that it's always supposed to go a certain way. It's not always going to go a certain way. There is not always one specific way to do something. You have to stay flexible, stay loose, and make your decisions on an individual, circumstantial basis. Does that make sense? Let's go deeper. We know both decisions are going to have their drawbacks, but we need to embrace that making decisions is a very huge part of your life. In fact, experts would estimate that you are actually making another decision once every 2.5 seconds. If that's the case, then you're making nearly 30,000 decisions per day. Yes, you heard me correctly. You are making 30,000 decisions per day. So this is something that you want to be good at, because you're doing it more than you do nearly anything. I mean, we probably blink more. We probably take more breaths in a day, but making decisions is really up there. Now, you might not have ever noticed that you make 30,000 decisions per day. The reason why you're self-conscious about decisions is because you've been fed a lie. And the lie that you've been fed is that you're not good at making decisions. That's not true. You're making 30,000 decisions per day. It's just that most of the decisions you don't notice because A, they're either subconscious, or B, they seem to be innocuous decisions that aren't going to affect a lot of people. So since a lot of eyes aren't on you, you're not worried about who's going to notice and what people are going to say and what the judgment's going to be. So you're walking around making decisions freely. But in reality, you're good at making decisions. You're making decisions all the time. From the moment you wake up in the morning, you're making decisions. Am I going to get out of bed right now, or am I going to lay in bed? Am I going to hit the snooze button, or am I going to get up and get started? And then you decide, am I going to take a shower this morning? Am I going to brush my teeth this morning? Am I going to wash my face this morning? Am I going to comb my hair? I'm just going to go out looking like this. What am I going to wear? Am I going to wear something? Where am I going to go? What time am I going to leave? How am I going to get there? There's 30,000 decisions happening. Are you going to lock your door or not? All of these are decisions. You might not notice them because you might be running on like a subconscious program and fooling yourself into thinking, oh, I lock my door because that's the right thing to do. I wear clothes because that's the right thing to do. I brush my teeth because that's the right thing to do. So you're thinking, oh, everything is just right and wrong. No, it's not. Everything is not right and wrong. It depends. Like most days, you're supposed to eat breakfast, but do you? Well, on most days, hopefully. But what if you're having a colonoscopy and the doctor said, don't eat today? It depends. So some days it's good to eat, but some days you're actually not supposed to eat. Virtually everything is like this. Although it may seem like there's a clear right decision to make, it's not always that simple. And so you're choosing based on the current circumstance, not what's right to do, but what's going to be best. That's what you're looking for. What's going to be best? What's the superior decision in this case? What's most advantageous to me in this particular circumstance? That's how you make a decision. So what if you got a really hard life decision, man? Like, I mean, catastrophic, like big time stuff, like, is my friend going to move in with me, or my boyfriend going to move in with me, or like, I mean, just big life decisions. Am I going to let my kid move back home, or are we going to move, and where are we going to move, or which house we're going to buy? Like the big decisions. Which college am I going to go to? Like the big decisions in life. How do you do it? How do you figure out which decision is best? Be decisive and make sure you made the right decision. Well, as we talked about, first of all, we have to let go of the idea of right. But how do we make sure that it's the superior choice? Something that we can be proud of. Well, there's a process we can use to do this. And I'm going to reveal that process to you right now. But it's best for me to use an illustration of where you actually do this in smaller things in your life all the time. See, because remember, your lack of confidence in your making decisions is not because you can't make decisions. It's just that you've been fed a lie. At some point when you were very young, you came up with an idea that you weren't good at making decisions. And so you're walking around with all this unnecessary insecurity, but you make decisions all the time. Illustration I would use is you buying fruit in the grocery store. When you buy fruit in the grocery store, let's say you're getting tomatoes or avocados or something like that, you have a whole bushel of them, right? They just lay them out in front of you, and you're looking at 300 tomatoes in arm's reach, right? So how do you make your choice? Is there a clear one correct tomato that you're supposed to find out of 300? There's a correct tomato? Well, you might say it depends, right? Because it depends how many tomatoes you need, which kind of tomatoes you need, and what you're using them for, right? Because if you're not going to use the tomatoes for a few days, you might get tomatoes that are less ripe, right? But if you're going to use them today, you're going to get fresh, ripe tomatoes. And the blemishes might not matter as much if you're just crushing the tomatoes and making a sauce. Whereas if these tomatoes are going to be on display, you're going to want tomatoes that are very beautiful, very clean, and have less blemishes. So are you the type of person that picks up your tomatoes and kind of examines them before you pick the one you want, kind of puts them back if it's not ripe enough, and you're feeling and you're looking, you got this whole little process to it? Are you the type of person that does that? Yeah, everyone is. Like, we all look at our fruit before we buy it. Why? Well, what we're looking for is not which fruit is right and which fruit is wrong. Right? As we mentioned, it's circumstantial. What we're looking for is which one is best. We're trying to get within a reasonable amount of effort which fruit is going to be better than the others, right? You're just going to get the best that you can get in that particular moment, right? That's how you make all decisions in life. You're going to check, you're going to see what the options are that are available, and you're going to choose based on a basis of comparison to the options that are available, which one is the best, as in superior. In my case, I really love it when I don't see too many blemishes on the outside. I don't want to see any rotten parts, right? And as a result, I'm choosing the superior tomatoes to go into my cart. And then I walk away happy that I've made the best decision that I could have made. Should I get all the way to the cashier, get all the way home, and then say, man, I'll bet there was a bunch of tomatoes there that were better than these tomatoes. Most of us don't waste time with that. Why don't you worry that there may have been better tomatoes there than the tomatoes you got? Because you recognize it doesn't really matter. You did the best you could at the time and with the time that you had. You have a limited amount of time to choose tomatoes. You cannot sit there and literally look at all 300 tomatoes that are there. It's not even going to guarantee anything. You're going to choose a few. You're going to look at them. You're going to choose on a basis of comparison based on what you're doing with them, how many you need, and you make your choice and you go. What you do is you do the best sauce you can do with the tomatoes you got. Right? Because that makes more sense than looking back and saying, boy, I bet there was other tomatoes there that might have been better. It does you no good to do that. Once you've made your purchase and you've made your decision, you make the best out of the tomatoes you have. Are you connecting this right now to your decision-making process? Instead of looking back and regretting and saying, man, I bet there was another decision. I could have gone to a different school. I could have did something different. You make the best with the tomatoes you have. Don't worry if you could have got a better husband. Make the best out of the husband you got. Don't worry if maybe you shouldn't have had kids. Make the best out of the life you have. Don't worry if you could have maybe gone to the other school. You make the best out of the decision that you made. Regret is a choice, and it's not always helpful. So we have to stay away from being too extreme and always beating ourselves up. Before we make the decision, we're beating ourselves up that we haven't made the decision, we're bad at it. Then we make the decision, we beat ourselves up about all the downfalls of this particular decision. That's not helpful. It's maladaptive. The best thing to do is to make the best choice you could have made. Once you're done, you move forward and you make the best sauce out of the tomatoes that you can make. It's just that simple. So you have to have good critical thinking skills when it comes to making really hard decisions. And what are good critical thinking skills? Good critical thinking skills is your ability to analyze and discern. That's critical thinking. Your ability to analyze and discern. To discern is to choose, is to judge. To analyze is to take in information and compare information to one another. That's what you were doing in the supermarket. You picked up a tomato, you analyzed it. You took in information with your eyes, with your sense of feeling by pressing in on it. You analyzed and you compared that information with the other tomatoes. That's analyzation, taking in information, comparing it. Discernment is when you pick one that you judge, you deem to be better than the other ones. That's how you make all decisions. That's critical thinking. To analyze and discern. Do you have good critical thinking skills? It's a life skill. Many people make decisions based on their feelings. That's not a superior way of making decisions, generally. You want to use good critical thinking skills. Your feelings are one piece of data that you can take in and consider as a part of your decision. Your feelings should not be the decision. You want to take in all the data, all the information. That's good critical thinking skills. So let me illustrate how this can look, okay? Now imagine a president of a sovereign nation is sitting behind her desk and there are explosions outside that she can hear from her office. She's on the telephone with her general. The general says to her, the army is standing by and waiting for your command, ma'am. She says, okay, thank you very much. Stand by. I will let you know. Hangs up the phone. Her assistant walks in. Ma'am, we have just received communication from the enemy. And here's what he wants. And she says, I can't handle this stress. Ah! And she goes and she hides under the desk. Is that good is that good critical thinking skills? Is that good decision-making skills? So her assistant looks at her and closes the blinds and hides under the desk too. Are they going to come to a good decision doing that? No. But that's how people make decisions when they just react emotionally. They don't take in all the information. They just get stressed out and they hide and they hope it's all going to work out. And do you think that that situation is going to work out for her? No. Her nation's under attack. It's going to end very badly for her as a result. But picture the scenario again now. Now imagine this president's on the phone and she hears outside, she hears the explosions happening. She hangs up with the general. Okay, await my command. Bam, she hangs up the phone. Her assistant walks in. She says, ma'am, we have just had contact with the enemy and here's what he wants. He says that you need to either surrender or he's going to continue the invasion of this nation and he will destroy you. He has a bigger army. He has more resources. What do you think we should do, ma'am? We're waiting for your decision. And she says, she picks up the phone and she's like, I want you to send that army, send everything you got, go in there and fight. She hangs up the phone. Her assistant says, ma'am, can I ask why you made that decision? She says, don't ask me any questions. You get out there and fight too. I want everyone going out and I want everyone fighting back. In this situation, at least she made a decision. But the problem is she hasn't taken the time to analyze all the information at her disposal. As a result, she's making a biased decision. This is based on perhaps what she thinks is going to be the best in situations like this. When people make decisions based on bias, it's not the highest quality decision that they could make. It's not necessarily that it's wrong, but sometimes they might not make the best, highest quality choice because they're just making it based on their bias. And so this particular president has the bias that if anyone attacks you, just fight back. But imagine the scenario one more time. And the president instead says to the assistant, what did the enemy say? Well, the enemy said you can either surrender or if you fight back, he's going to destroy you. He's got a bigger army. He's got more resources. And then she says, okay, if we were to surrender, what would be the terms? And then her assistant says, well, they would let you live. And she says, okay, why don't you bring my other advisors in and let's analyze this. And so now she starts thinking about all the options at her disposal. She has the assistant put on the board her different options, which are to surrender or to fight back. And by taking in information from her military commander and her other advisors, she's looking at everything. And after analyzing all of the data, she realizes that thousands of lives on both sides will be lost if she proceeds with fighting. But if she surrenders, she could spare many lives. The downside of surrendering would be that it would bring down national morale. So then she determines what is more important, human lives or our pride as a country. This isn't an easy decision, but for this president, she decides that she's going to prioritize lives. And so she decides that she's going to surrender to the enemy nation. As a result of her decision, the nations do not go to war and lives are spared on both sides. Now, I'm not saying that this is the way it must be handled by a president whose nation is being invaded. Of course, I wouldn't propose to say that because it will depend on those circumstances. But what we've illustrated is 3 different ways of handling the situation. And in the scenario number 1, the president just reacted emotionally and therefore stalled on making a decision, and that's going to be catastrophic for sure. Not the best decision. In decision number 2, we had a higher quality decision because she made one, but it was just based on her bias. She didn't take the time to analyze all of the information. In the third decision, she used critical thinking, that is to analyze and discern. So she took in all the information, she brought in all the advisors, and then in taking in the information, she compared the choices up against what her actual goal was, what her ultimate goal was. And she found that ultimately what's most important to her is preserving lives. And that was a good thing to find out, because in decision number 2, she mowed over all those lives, not realizing that that would have actually been more important to her, because she just made her decision based on bias. And so you can make the highest quality decision if you follow a process of critical thinking before you make your decision. Now, how can you do that? Well, if you're taking notes, you'll want to write down past, present, future. 3 things you want to take into consideration when you're making a decision and your information and data gathering phase is you want to analyze your decision against the past, the present, and the future. When we talk about the past, we're talking about what you know from how these things have gone in the past. So you're going to compare this against history. For instance, should I take my husband back? Well, every single time I've done that before, he's come in and he's beat me to a pulp. So based on the past, should I let him back in again? The past gives you very important, very helpful data in making a decision. Another thing you want to look at is the present. In terms of the present, you have to be able to determine the actual circumstances at hand in this particular situation. So in this present situation that you're in right now, what is going to be the choice? Because in every situation is going to be a little bit different, right? So some days you would wear a t-shirt, some days you wear a sweatshirt. Why? It's based on the present situation. So you have to analyze, what is the weather like today? What are the present circumstances that are going to bear into this decision? And then finally, you want to look into the future. So you're actually going to play out. Now, if we do scenario number 1, if we fight back against this nation, what will happen? And then if we do scenario number 2, and if we surrender, what will happen? And by playing out the future, you're able to take in that data to see what you can actually expect ultimately as a result of your decision. So now when you weigh the past, the present, the future, now you have high quality data on which to base your decision. Now we're thinking critically. You also have to take into consideration your feelings and the feelings of others. Feelings matter. Your feelings are an indication of your values. So when you feel down or you feel bad about something, it may be because you have certain values that are being violated or may potentially be violated. So you have to take into consideration the feelings of others in your decision. In addition to that, you have to weigh everything against your ultimate goal. So what is your ultimate goal in any situation? You have to know where you're going, where you're wanting things to go, where you're wanting everything to ultimately end up. That's your ultimate goal. When you understand what your ultimate goal is in a situation, then you can compare your choice against your ultimate goal. Now you're thinking critically. You have to know what's most important to you, what is priority to you. If you don't know what's most important and what your priorities are, you can't make a good decision. You don't know. You need to know what's really most important to you. So you have to weigh in your ultimate goal. So all of these things will help you in your process of making decisions. I'm going to give you one more tool that you're going to find very, very helpful. This particular tool that I'm going to share with you is how to make a wait list. Have you ever heard of a wait list? What I'm going to do in order to show this to you is actually, let's see, I'm going to share screen to do this. I'm going to draw for you an example of how you can make a decision using critical thinking and a wait list. You guys let me know if you can see this share screen here. So what you want to do is you make a line right across the top of your page, and you're going to make a line right in the middle. And you're going to put your two choices on the top. So let's say your choices are, do I want to continue to stay living at home with my parents, or do I want to move out? Right? And now you're ready to make your decision. Now, here's how you create the wait list. You're going to write the pros and cons of each decision under your wait list. Okay. So for instance, in this case, for stay, I'm going to write down what the benefits are of staying. So in this case, here, I'll put pros right here. My benefits of staying is that I save money. Another benefit of staying is that it's close to work. And another benefit of staying is that I won't hurt my mom's feelings by leaving. Okay, good. Now you go over to the other side and you write down the benefits of leaving. So if I leave, I'll gain my independence. If I go, I get to look cool in front of my friends because I have my own place. And if I leave, I will no longer be getting abused. So I'll have my mental health because my parents are abusive. And I'll also have privacy. Very good. So now that I've got all the pros of the situation listed, if there are cons of the situation, I can throw them here. So the con of staying is already listed over here as if I were to stay, it would hurt my mental health, but I already have that listed in the pros. So there aren't really any other cons of staying that I haven't already listed in the pros. Are there any cons of leaving? Well, it would hurt my mom's feelings, but that's also already listed in the pros. It would cost me money, but that's listed in the pros of the other thing. So let's say I don't have any additional cons here. So now all I have to do is I'm going to assign a weight value to each thing on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 will equal something I don't care about. 5 will equal something that's of the highest importance to me. Okay. So for instance, saving money, that's pretty important, but it's not of the highest importance to me. So I'm going to put 4 for saving money. Something being close to work, that's not really that important to me. I'm going to put a 1 there. My mom's feelings are really important to me, but not the most important thing in the world. I'm going to give that a 4. Now I go over here. The fact that I have independence, that's really important to me. I'm going to give that a 4. The fact that I'll look cool, that's not that important to me. I'll give that probably a 1. My health, that's the most important thing in the world to me. I'm going to give that a 5. My privacy, that's really important to me. I'll at least give it a 4. Now, if I have any cons on either side, I'm going to give those the same weight value, but they're going to count against my totals. So they would now become negative. So for instance, on this side, I have 4, 4, and 1. That's going to be a total of 9. And over here, I have 4, 4, and that's 8, 9 plus 5. That's going to give me a total of 14. Sorry if my math is not right. Just keep trying to learn from the illustration here. So ultimately, I can see that leaving has a greater weight value in benefits for me. Now I feel like I can make a much clearer decision. That's how you use a wait list. When I really look at it, I've been so caught up on saving money and my mom's feelings, I didn't even realize that there were all these benefits that were so much more important to me on the other side. Now I know I should go. Whenever you have an important decision to make, create a wait list like this. As a result, you can make a determination that was well thought out, that was weighed out, and that you can really be proud of in the end. Hopefully these tools have helped you to be a better decision maker. Feel free to reach out to me via email. You can find my email on our website, mindfreed.org. And you can also find a phone number there that you can get a hold of us if you want help in learning how to become a better decision maker. All of you are invited back again on Wednesday night when we have our group discussion. Until then, thanks for everything.